Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and I'm from the United States. So today we're going to learn about the SunLike series of natural spectrum LED lights. So lately we've been having a lot of super difficult medical or scientific articles. So this week I hope it's a little bit easier on your eyes and your brains. So I think this one will be a little bit more of a rest, hopefully, for a lot of you guys. So the article is a little bit long, so we're going to go through it one sentence at a time so that you can see all of the words. All right. The SunLike series of natural spectrum LED lights have been adopted by the Japanese lighting firm Koizumi, where they will be used to illuminate the bedrooms, study spaces, and living rooms of children. So basically, this Korean lighting company, they invented a new type of natural spectrum LED lights. So what does that mean exactly? So this is the natural spectrum of light that humans can see. Actually, this is just a very small part of all the light that exists. There's ultraviolet rays and infrared rays, radar, lots of stuff. We're just going to focus on the stuff that you and I can actually see. So these are all of the colors that we can see in the rainbow. And down here, we have examples of natural spectrum lights. So they mimic the daylight patterns that we can see throughout the day. So, so this Korean company, they made a series of natural spectrum LED lights, and they've been adopted by a Japanese company. So this word adopted, it has two meanings. Adopted can mean 입양하다, to adopt someone else's child and have them be your child and raise them as your own. But in this case, it means to start to use. So they're adopting this Korean technology in Japan. So in Japan, these natural spectrum LED lights will be used to illuminate or light up the bedrooms, study spaces, and living rooms of children. So I don't know, this looks pretty good to me. I'm not a child, but I kind of want some. This looks pretty good. Unlike incandescent and fluorescent indoor lights, which can cause eye strain and disrupt sleep cycles in children and adults, natural spectrum LED lights were designed to mimic the spectrum of natural sunlight. So I think the two most difficult words in this sentence are probably the first two that I have highlighted. So incandescent and fluorescent, those are simply describing two different types of light bulbs. So this is kind of like the old-fashioned, Thomas Edison light bulb. It has a filament inside that lights up. Usually, incandescent lights give off a kind of yellow or orange light that a lot of people like. However, they use a lot of energy and they get very hot, so it can be dangerous if a lamp containing one of these falls, because it can actually start a fire in your house. More recently, a lot of people have started using fluorescent lights. So these lights, they contain a element, I think it's called fluorine. I'm not a chemist. If I'm wrong, just correct me. If I'm wrong, just correct me in the comments. I won't take it personally. But basically, that element, it goes in these little tubes, and it is able to produce light a lot more efficiently than incandescent light bulbs. So usually, fluorescent light bulbs, they cost more upfront, but they actually end up saving you more money in energy savings. However, these are really dangerous if you break them. The gas inside can be very toxic for you to breathe, so you have to be super careful about where you throw them out. And then also, I don't know, maybe this is just me, but I find I don't really like the light given off by fluorescent lights. So fluorescent lights, they're used in airports, they're used in classrooms, they're used in hospitals. It's very white and blue and just not flattering. I don't know, for some reason I don't like it. But anyway, so yeah. So these lights, they were created by this company. They're not incandescent and they're not fluorescent. So they're not quite like the lights that we just saw before. And Instead, they're natural spectrum LED lights. So, just like we said, they are on the natural spectrum. So they mimic, or they follow, or they pretend to be like the light from the sun. Humans, as well as all animals and plants on this planet, have been evolving in accordance with the rising and setting of the sun for 3.9 billion years. So humans and animals, and I believe some plants, have a thing called circadian rhythm. I believe we talked about this in a video about 2 weeks ago, so if you want to learn more about that, you can. But basically, because humans and all life on this planet, we evolved, or we 진화하다, in order to adapt to our environment here on Earth, right? And one of the most important things is that we adapt to the rising and setting of the sun, because the rising and setting of the sun, it determines when, for at least most of human history, it determined when you were able to go outside, because humans, they can't see very well in the dark, right, compared to other animals. And the sun, it basically powers everything in our ecosystem, right? So plants, they photosynthesize, or they like eat up the sunlight, basically, and then animals eat the plants, and then we eat the animals, and yeah. So without the sun, life would be very different, to say the least. So it makes a lot of sense that humans, animals, and plants have evolved in accordance or along with the setting and rising of the sun for 3.9 billion years. That is such a big number. I can't even imagine. A study performed at the University of Basel in Switzerland tested the relative effect of light sources that mimic natural and artificial sources on various indicators of human health and well-being, and found surprisingly pronounced results. So this is a little bit of a long sentence, I'm sorry, but basically some scientists in Switzerland, they did an experiment, and so they wanted to test the effects that natural and artificial, or man-made, or fake, sources of lights, what kind of impact it had on human health. And they were surprised that the results were pretty pronounced. They were very significant, and there was more of a difference than they were expecting. And they were able to tell this through the various indicators of human health that they used as measurements. So an indicator in Korean, you would call it like a 지수. So it's like a number that tells you about something else, right? So maybe heart rate, or number of hours slept at night, etc. The paper reported that the scientists have evidence that a daylight natural spectrum LED solution has beneficial effects on visual comfort, daytime alertness, mood, and sleep intensity in healthy volunteers. So in the scientific paper that the scientists published after they did this experiment, they said that the daylight natural spectrum LED lights had a beneficial or positive effect on visual comfort. So sometimes if you're in a really bright room and you're looking at white paper, it kind of hurts your eyes, right? So these lights, they don't really do that because it mimics the light that comes from the sun. So it's a little bit less blue and harsh than a lot of other artificial indoor lights. And also it improved people's mood, and it improved the intensity of their sleep. So if these lights, they make you feel happier. I know I definitely have a strong preference for lighting in my space. I always feel better when it's kind of like a chill, kind of cozy atmosphere. I really hate fluorescent lights. I can probably talk about that all day, but I won't. And then also, the lights had a positive impact on sleep intensity. So because it's basically mimicking the effect of staying outside in the sun all day long. And this is actually really good for sleep because, like I said before, we all have a circadian rhythm. So we're supposed to fall asleep when it gets dark outside, right? But because we're looking at screens all day and we also have so much artificial light indoors, sometimes our body doesn't know when it's supposed to go to sleep. So this results in some people having very light sleep, so that maybe they're asleep but they don't actually get very energized in the morning, or they might have trouble falling asleep or even staying asleep. So yeah, I can definitely relate to that. By installing the SunLike LED lights in spaces that their children often use, parents can help their children prevent myopia, boost learning and concentration, and even improve the quality of their sleep. So if they install or put in or utilize the SunLike LED lights, their children are less likely to develop myopia. That means nearsightedness, so when you can't see things that are far away from you, boost learning and concentration, and improve their sleep. I mean, this sounds excellent. I want some of these lights myself. While outdoor activities remain limited in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, the SunLike series could provide a viable alternative to going outside. So, I don't know about you guys, but I have been spending way more time indoors than I normally would these past few decades, it feels like, but really it's only been a couple of months. And yeah, I think constantly being exposed to screens and artificial fake blue light, it's really not good for my body or for my mood. So, you know, these lights produced by the SunLike series, if it feels like my body is outside, and maybe I can trick my brain and then I'll feel better or I'll sleep better. Who knows? Yeah. So that was our article for this week. I hope that it was a little bit less insanely difficult than some of the other stuff that we've been learning about lately. And I know a lot of you are probably studying from home. Some of you may be studying for the SunLike exam, or just lots of other stressful things happening in your lives. So I'm just saying, I really hope that everything goes well for you, and I understand how stressful this time can be because I'm going through it too. All right, well, I hope that all of you have a wonderful day, and maybe you can consider checking out some of these natural spectrum LED lights. Maybe it'll be helpful for you. All right, have a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.